Yo, gang, what's up? And today, we are doing a History of Kamen Rider video, part 1. This video is only gonna really cover the original series, and if we're lucky, V3, since I had to dedicate 3 slides to the original. That's how much development went into it. So, in order to not waste any time, let's begin! In the realm of tokusatsu, there are 3 big franchises, all of which have been going on since at latest the 70s. There's the Super Sentai franchise, the Ultraman franchise, and finally, the Kamen Rider franchise, which we'll be taking a look at today. The first 2 will eventually do videos on. Am I gonna regret it? We'll see. But in the meantime, what the Kamen Rider franchise brought to tokusatsu was that it brought the sheer scale and size of the battles in Godzilla and Ultraman to the scope of the average man, with human-sized heroes and villains. However, there were a few speed bumps, as you'll see. But still, the franchise has been going on for over 50 years, with its new installment, Kamen Rider Gav, and its upcoming next installment, Kamen Rider Zezidus. So join me on the history of Kamen Rider. So, the year was 1970, and TV network MBS, or the Mainichi Broadcasting System, had a half-hour time slot on Saturdays from 7:30 to 8 p.m. had continued to house failing shows, where nothing seemed to stick. This is because their rival, or at least at the time, TBS, had a popular game show called Comedy Brain Exercises. Having enough, they reached out to Toei for a hit show, no matter what the cost. This would serve to be real ironic. So Toei got to work. Toei thought about doing a modern-day masked hero series, like Moonlight Mask back in the late 50s, seeing the success of their anime adaptation of Tiger Mask, a manga by Ikki Kajiwara. Showrunners Toru Hiroyama and Yoshinori Watanabe were brought in and presented Masked Man K, focusing on a gym teacher named Tsuyoshi Kujo, who obtains his powers through training, and he fights Shocker, an evil organization led by Claude Kurohara. This was too conventional, so Hiroyama brought in Shotaro Ishinomori, who was supposed to work on a previous show of theirs called Yojutsu Bugeicho, which I've actually watched. In Bugeicho's place was the judo show called Judo Straight Line, which was very popular and served as an inspiration for Kamen Rider. It was also based on a manga by Ikki Kajiwara. Ishinomori wanted something more grotesque and proposed Masked Angel, where Takashi Hongo is a wanted man suspected of killing his professor Hiroshi Midorikawa. Sci-fi elements were introduced, like Takashi receiving his powers through electric shocks. However, mid-design, the hero changed to Crossfire, a wrestler superhero with the red cross-shaped visor on his mask. And so production started. But there was one problem. MBS was not too pleased when they found out the budget was only 4 million yen. And by December, the title became Cross Mask Kamen Rider, and Hiroshi Fujioka was cast as the lead. So the show was finally ready to begin production, until Ishinomori called Hiroyama and told him the design was too conventional. The former proposed Skullman, where Takashi Hongo becomes a cyborg, based on Ishinomori's own one-shots. Everyone hated it, so the manga writer began drawing sporadically until arriving on, of all things, a grasshopper, to reflect a hero who fights an enemy that destroys nature. Where that part came in, I don't know. Ishinomori was probably seeing the news at one point, And given how environmental issues were a top subject at the time, I can kinda see where that came from. After a bunch of justifications later, like the producers arguing that the hero would be killed easily because he is based on a grasshopper, the manga writer convincing them that if the grasshopper was human-sized, he'd actually be a mighty force. And the show was retitled Kamen Rider Hopper King. Since budget was always an issue, the writer would not perform any special attacks like Ultraman's Spacium Beam. As a result, producer Yusaku Uchiha would come up with the Rider Kick using a grasshopper's biology. The Rider Kick being when Kamen Rider kicks an enemy so hard they explode. MBS, in February, thought the title of the show was too long, and the title was finally shortened to Kamen Rider, where it would stay. Now, Takashi Hongo is a scientist with an IQ of 600, and he is very athletic as he rides his motorcycle. One day, he is kidnapped and turned into a cyborg by Shocker, a secret society founded by mostly former Nazis that want to take over the world. Right as Hongo is to have his memories wiped, his old professor, Hiroshi Midorikawa, saves him. But the professor is murked as a result. Now Hongo stands as Kamen Rider to fight off Shocker and its forces. Back to the budget. As a result of it being less than half the budget of Ultraman, the special effects quality was noticeably low and makes some moments unintentionally comedic. So very few special effects were used. So the show took more judo elements from Judo Straight Line. At episode 7, an MBS bureau director was mad when seeing an early cut when Takashi plays with puppies. Takashi is the Kamen Rider, asking if they're lonely. So, Hirayama drove to the office and explained that it would help fleshing out Takashi's character and make him more relatable. Here is a dramatization of this meeting. The Kamen Rider is supposed to be a hero, and thus he should not be seen holding puppies. If he does, he would appear weak and sentimental as a consequence. However, sir, having Kamen Rider hold the puppy and talk to him would make him feel more human, and thus he'll feel more relatable to our viewers. Hirayama managed to seemingly get a compromise, showing the scene while the audio is muted. In its place is the usual end speech about how Kamen Rider will always fight the forces of Shocker. The biggest issue would come while filming episode 10, and also the most significant in the franchise. While doing a motorcycle stunt, Fujioka absolutely shredded his leg, and as a result, he had to watch the show premiere in the hospital. I can only imagine the doctor looking at the TV while Kamen Rider is playing, then looking at Fujioka like, "This you? This you?" Meanwhile, at Toei, everybody was spiraling. What to do? Kill him off? No, that would destroy the dreams of children, Hirayama argued. And also, ratings were too strong, at 8%. Not exactly what MBS was hoping for, but they were still strong. For episodes 11 to 13, they used body doubles, and dubbing over Takashi's voice with Rokuro Naya, the little brother of Goro Naya, who voiced Shocker in the same show. From episode 14 on, the writers wrote that Takashi left to fight Shocker overseas, mainly in Europe, and in his place was Hayato Ishimonji, played by Takashi Sasaki, a recurring actor from Judo Straight Line. Fans liked him for his more down-to-earth personality, but nothing can just work out. Sasaki didn't have a motorcycle license, so the henshin pose was hastily created. A member of the Ono Kendo Club, who provided most of the stunts from the series, suggested for the rider to do a judo-like move that judoka would do right before a match. And as a result, the ratings climbed, and when Takeshi Hongo returned in episodes 40 and 41, ratings peaked at 30.1%. Average ratings were 21.2%. Hayato's solo stretch in the show was actually proved to be so successful that it lasted even after Fujioka fully healed. And so, after Hongo returned, he and Ichimonji formed the Double Riders. Ishinomori directed episode 84, but his manager Noboru Kato told Toei not to compliment him because the manager feared Ishinomori would move to live action, and thus it would result in the end of Ishinomori Productions, which was his manga company. People have pointed out the episode still had solid cinematography. And that's all the time we have for today, folks. So, next time, I will cover Kamen Rider V3 and Kamen Rider X. Originally, I was planning on covering the development of the final arc of the original series, but I decided to save that for V3's development. So, until then, like, subscribe, and comment down below, and share this video. So, later, fools!